Welcome to the Thriving on Purpose podcast, where we teach Christian entrepreneurs how to build a strong foundation of faith, growth, and skill to lead and thrive on purpose in life and business. And now, here are your hosts, certified coaches Elisabeth and Sebastien Richard.
Thanks for joining me on the Thriving on Purpose podcast. Today I'm going to talk to you about how a scarcity mindset will destroy your team and business. So a lot of people hear the term scarcity mindset, but they don't really know what that means. We always talk about scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. So I'm going to give you a few pointers how to avoid having a scarcity mindset. And depending how you were raised or, what your family was like, oftentimes you will either inherit a scarcity mindset, or you might be living in an area where there's a lot of scarcity because there's less opportunities, maybe there's less provision. So that can encourage a scarcity mindset. So it's really important to get rid of, because in your business can't thrive unless you have an abundance mindset. And a lot of people believe that they can only have an abundance mindset when they have plenty of everything, right? So they think if you have a lot of provision, a lot of resources, a lot of people around you helping you with your business, then you're going to flow in abundance and you're going to create wealth. For example, when we talk about having an abundance mindset, when we talk about giving to the poor, so the Bible talks a lot about giving. And when you study different people out there that have success in their businesses, a lot of them are philanthropists, a lot of them are very generous people. And I do know some very successful people around me, and I've noticed the same thing, that they are very, very generous people. So they oftentimes have a generous heart to give to those that have less. So it's really important to see that, even if you don't have a lot of wealth at the time that you're starting your business, it's really important that God sees that you're a cheerful giver and that you do try to give to those that really do need. And, I mentioned money, but it can be different things. It could be sometimes something that you have in your home that somebody else needs that you don't really use. That can be a way to give. And that way of thinking, instead of just keeping everything for yourself, whether it be for money because you're scared to lack anything, or maybe it's something that you keep in your house that you don't really use, thinking, oh, well, one day I might use it. All those behaviors are behaviors of scarcity. So we tend to do these things, and they've been part of our lives for so long sometimes that we don't even see that we've been attached to these things because we're scared of. And early on in my marriage, when we got married, we had a lot of things that were given to us from different sides of the family. And I had noticed that I tended to do that a lot. I tended to keep a lot of stuff that I didn't really use that I was given, because I was always saying to my husband, well, someday I might use this, someday I might use that. And my husband made me realize after a couple of years, it's like, you never use this thing. Like, why are you keeping it? Somebody else can use that. Somebody else would be happy to have it. And I was kind of operating in this mindset that, if I got rid of it, then when I need it, I wouldn't have it. And I was always like operating in fear of not having enough. And, I was raised that way. My dad had a scarcity mindset, and he kept a lot of stuff in the house, and my mom too. And so they kind of, it kind of went on me, like this mindset I adapted. And a lot of us do tend to take these mindsets from our parents, because they teach us, right, how to think about money. They teach us how to spend or be generous or So that's really important to look at all these different aspects of how you feel towards money and how you feel towards giving. I knew it was really funny because one of my friends had a very good position, and she had a lot more money than I did a couple of years back. And every time I'd listen to her talk, she was always scared about lacking, and she was always scared about not having enough. And yet I knew by her position that she was making a lot more than I was. And yet she was scared to go out to the restaurant and buy herself a burger once a week because she could use that money to do something else that, was going to give her more of whatever in her home. And so, people will decide how they're going to spend their money. She preferred, spending crazy amounts on natural products for herself. And, I preferred going out for a burger once in a while. So, we all use our money differently, and we all think about money differently. And so that's another thing that I want you to pay attention is to who you surround yourself with. So whether you're building a team of people, to work with, or whether you're hiring people, or maybe, you're surrounding yourself with other entrepreneurs, other people that you're wanting to do masterminds with. It's really important that you always surround yourself with positive people that see the glass half full, so that you can get this, that attitude, that mindset can rub off on you, because you'll notice that these people that are much more successful than you are will oftentimes not be as attached to their wealth, and they'll have more of a positive mindset. They're able to create wealth in their mindsets because they've learned how to create wealth out of nothing, right? So for them, it's no big deal to recreate wealth and see different ways of creating wealth, that probably ideas that you never thought were possible will just pop up in their heads. So when you are in a scarcity mindset, all you see is what's in front of you, and you can't see more opportunity, and you can't see the glass half full sometimes. And that's the danger, because that's when your business doesn't grow. You're scared to spend where you should be spending money, and you're scared to invest in yourself because you should be using your money to do this in your business instead of investing in your personal growth and things like that, and that could affect your business tremendously. So having an abundance mindset, even with yourself, when it's time to invest in yourself, is really important, so that you grow as an entrepreneur, so that it helps you to see differently and increase your abundance in your mindset as well. And when we're talking about teams, there's also the as a leader, if you have a mindset that teaches people to be kind of like miser when it comes to money, and don't do this and don't do that and save on this, and always in a scarcity kind of mindset, then that will produce fear in people. That will teach your teammates to kind of be paranoid when it comes to money and spending. And my husband was working in a company where he had noticed that as well, in the sense that he had worked for a boss that actually had such a bad scarcity mindset that he was afraid to give a little more time to employees, or had to calculate everything, like from the minute that they walk in the door, everything that was calculated was overly exaggerated, as if it was his own company. And it was such a scarcity mindset, and it just made everybody in the team, everybody that was working for that person, really, really miserable, because they just felt like they had no independence to do anything, that they couldn't be trusted. Everything was watched, like they were watched like hawks and everything. So it really created a fear mindset, and it really made people not feel like working for him, and they didn't feel like they were going to grow, and like he was influencing them in a bad way, So it's really important as an employer, as somebody that has a team, that's a leader, to really try to, encourage your employees, encourage the people that work with you on your team to be generous. I thought it was really, really nice in one of the network marketing companies that I had worked for, that I'd worked with. One of the ladies was extremely generous with her money, and she did all kinds of different things, all kinds of different opportunities for her teammates to really feel like they were part of a culture and her part of her team that was going to bless other people. And she was doing all kinds of different things in different countries to build some revenue, to build some income, to be able to give to those people that were less fortunate, to really give back. So it wasn't just signing a check. She actually took a plane and went there and represented her team. And I thought that was a really nice thing, because the girls were able to see how their money had invested in those lives, and what did that look like. Not just signing a check and saying, okay, we're giving, $5,000 for this and that, and it's going to give them that, and that's it. The connection was deeper. They felt that they were really part of something, even if they were from a distance, because she actually went there and she showed them what that looked like. She actually filmed a few videos and showed them how much their money blessed those people, and showed the faces of those people that were blessed by the income that came in. So as when your leader does something like that, you really feel like you're part of something bigger than just, I'm making money and she's making money because I'm making more sales and this and that, right? So that's just an example of how you can create an abundance mindset and show generosity for your teammates. And we think automatically abundance, we think prosperity, we always think money, but an abundance mindset is also in your time and the way you share your time and your words of gratitude towards your teammates, towards the people that you work with, is really important as well as a kingdom entrepreneur. Sometimes, some people that you work with may just need to sort out some things, personal things, or maybe they just want to confide in you and they want to know what to do about a certain thing that they're dealing with, either personally or maybe it's work related. It's important to be generous of your time so that your teammates, your peers can feel like they can come to you and talk to you about different things, and that's gonna show in your team as well, how they're gonna be strengthened by you as a leader, and how they will have that attitude towards other people on their team, because we reproduce what we see our leaders do, right? So if they see that you're generous with your time and that you're somebody that they can talk to and that can help them with whatever it is that they need help with, they will do the same as well. When they're strong, they'll be able to help other people on the team as well. So it's really important to not have the fear of lack. So the fear of lack, can tend to make people very competitive, seeking for the next promotion, wanting to almost backstab the other person in the back to get it, will want to get more attention from the leader because they're feeling that there's not enough of that gratitude, or maybe not gratitude, but when you show those words of appreciation and you make people on your team feel valued and appreciated, there's less of that lack to have that specific title or to have that certain position. So it's really the key is to make everybody feel that everything that they're doing in that position that they're in is, fulfilling what your requirements are, and that they're going above and beyond, and to give that recognition, to give some incentives so that everybody feels that they're winning. So oftentimes in teams, we notice, like everybody notices, the people that are making the most money, those that are bringing in the most customers, nobody really needs to broadcast it. People see it, right? And it's important that we acknowledge this because they are working hard. But it's also important to find words of appreciation for even those that are trying hard and maybe not doing as well, but that you see that they are motivated and are trying hard, to give them some words of appreciation and a few incentives once in a while that can really motivate people to move forward and do more, right? And one thing I've learned in God's kingdom, I've learned several things, but I've noticed that, and listening to the stories and learning how God's kingdom works, is that God really operates from a place of abundance. So as we know, there is no lack in heaven, and he desires for us to have our needs met, and for us to be in complete faith and trust him for our needs. So he wants us to not be attached to our money. So the more that we're attached to our means and the way of getting our means, then we're more attached to a spirit of mammon and not to him. And I know sometimes it's hard for us to do because we're focused on what we see, and it's hard to focus on the unseen and really trust that, he will provide a way, and to really focus on being a vessel that God can use constantly, and that he can pour into, that will give back as well. So if you show God in the small things and the small things that he gives you now, that you're able to not be attached to your physical, to those material goods, if you want, material needs, he will be able to pour into you more, because he'll see that you care more about what he thinks and pleasing him, and less of your attachment to your money, your cars, your jewelry. And I heard a story once of this lady that was in network marketing, and she had gotten a really, really nice ring, and it was one of the nicest rings that you can get in the company when you were at the highest rank. And when she got that ring, she obviously was really happy about it, and God showed her that through time she kind of felt like, you know what, I'm too attached to this, like it means too much to me, and I don't want this to be my focus. I really want to focus on God. And sometimes there might be certain things in your life that you may have that maybe it's not jewelry, maybe it's a car, maybe it's something that you just focus way too much on the material side of it, and you care a little too much about it, and it takes too much room in your life, and it's maybe crowding your judgment, and maybe you're realizing that you're just too attached to this thing and that it's hindering your relationship with God. And so that'll be your decision if you want to give it away or not. But in that case, in this story, the lady felt a conviction that she was just too focused, that people around her were making too much of a big deal too around this, and it was just becoming too much of a material thing that she didn't want to have in her life, and that she actually gave it to a really great ministry, and they were able to do a lot of great things with that income that came from that ring. So that was a really nice gesture, because a lot of people, work really hard to get into network marketing and become the top of the company. And a lot of them, it's all about, flashing what they have and how many cars they own and how many houses they have. And in this case, this lady really did something really wonderful, and it blessed a lot of people in return. And another thing I want to talk about is where you live. So when you live in a territory where there's a lot more lack, you'll experience more of a stronger scarcity mindset. And I saw this when I used to live in Quebec. Before I came to Prince Edward Island, I lived in Quebec, and it was a very big province where quite a few millions of people, and there were a lot of businesses, a lot of restaurants, a lot of opportunities, a lot of jobs. Even if we were a lot of people that were competitive for certain jobs, there were a lot of jobs, there were a lot of opportunities. And when we moved to Prince Edward Island, I noticed that there was a very big shift. There was a very big shift in mindset here. And we got a little more involved and asked some questions, and my husband did some speaking for the business side in PI, and we started finding out that a lot of the businesses that were struggling were small businesses, and they were trying really hard to encourage small businesses. But the problem is that the people here have such a big scarcity mindset, and it kind of like does this, it's like a way of thinking that because you lack, you'll spend less on your business, you'll spend less on investing in yourself. There's a lot less value in personal development, for example, because personal development in their minds is something that is not really necessary, because they would rather take the money to do something else that they, let's say they want to focus on marketing or something like it. And when you go in the United States or you go in bigger provinces, entrepreneurs will actually spend a lot more money on investing in themselves and in personal development, because they understand that it makes a mind shift. It makes your mindset change, and therefore you persevere more, you have more grit, you think differently, and you'll develop a bigger growth mindset, and that will flourish in your business. That will actually make a difference in your business. And like, I was kind of laughing with Sebastien because sometimes there was something on sale, and I'm telling you, there was like 25 cents, something on sale for 25 cents. And and I remember once I wanted some cinnamon to bake a pie, and it was on sale for 25 cents, and they emptied the whole rack, right? Or you're gonna go to Walmart, which is a normal store, but here there's only one Walmart for 10,000 people. And so if there's a sale in a certain thing, well, you have to get there almost when the door opens, because then it's gone and there's not going to be any more, right? So people live in a scarcity mindset where it's sad to say, because you're like, well, if people are buying a lot more of a certain thing, why aren't they producing more of that thing? Why aren't they buying more of that thing? And it's just this mindset of, I don't want to lose anything. I don't want to lack anything. And so you see that in businesses, and yet in Quebec, you had like 5 Walmarts for like a really small area, honestly, like we had too much choice. And yet there was always abundance. You never lacked pajamas. You never lacked anything. There was always a size you needed. And, and yet like these Walmarts were close to each other, and there could have been, the quantity of people, millions and millions of people, there could have been more lack there in reality because of all the traffic and how many people were going in and out of these stores. And yet there was more. Like, people thought of stocking and buying more because they knew people would come. Here it's the contrary. It's like, oh, people might not come, or they might not buy this, so let's not stock this. And it's really I've seen a big shift, and we're talking about these big department stores that should be the same everywhere, right? So it's a bit the same thing, when you're in an environment, you might be thinking, well, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm in the countryside, and, around me, there's not a lot of people with a great mindset, an abundance mindset. So that's the beauty of building your business online, because there's a lot of other people around you online that you can either converse with, to connect with, that may have more of an abundance mindset. You can be part of online masterminds now. You don't have to do everything locally, and you can have that mindset as well, when you start a business, to not fall into that trap. And as kingdom entrepreneurs, we have to believe that if God gave you that vision to do that certain things, that God will provide for those means, so that you're able to have abundance, and you're able to have the resources that you need to do that thing, to do whatever it is that God has asked you to do. So I want to end with a few quotes and some verses to show you what the Bible says about abundance as well. So John Maxwell said the quote, "Abundance comes to people who expect abundance." And sometimes you'll realize that even on your lips, sometimes when you're investing or you're spending on your business, you might tend to say, oh, well, I won't spend as much as I should because, who knows in a year or this and that. Like, you're kind of like putting doubt, that your business won't be thriving. Like, how would you talk if you knew for sure that your business would be thriving, that you'd have more, I don't know, 100 more customers next year and, a few thousands more, or quite a few thousands more? Would you talk the same way if you had this assurance the next year that you would for sure make more and for sure have more customers? So you kind of have to put yourself in that mindset where you always expect more, and you always expect more from God, that He's going to give you more, that He's going to provide more customers, more business for you, because He cares about your needs and He cares about your business, and He understands, He knows that it's your your bread and butter for your family. So if we expect little from God, we'll get little from God. If we expect more from God and we expect more from life and goodness, and that we're going to be blessed, then we're going to have more of that. And I love the fact that my husband, once he had heard a sermon, a same kind of sermon on something like this, and he started writing down "expect a miracle," and he had typed it out on a computer, and he had put it everywhere in the house, on the on the walls in the bathroom. And at first I thought it was kind of nuts, but then when he talked to me about the whole thing, I was like, you know what, that's actually very smart, because we're constantly reminded that God can do a miracle that day, that God can bless you. And sometimes we forget about that. Like, we just look at what we're doing and do our little routine and everything, but we're not expecting anything from God. And we should be expecting things from Him, and we should be expecting great things, great surprises every day, right? So it's important to live your life as if something wonderful is about to happen every day. So I encourage you to do the same thing, to write "expect a miracle" or "expect a blessing" on your wall as well. And I'll read to you this verse in John 10:10. "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." And in the KJV, King James Version, it says, "have it more abundantly." So God came for us to have abundance. And He's not just talking about money. He's talking about living your life abundantly. So that's in every aspect of your life, of how you think, of how you spend, how you eat, to try to live in a way that you're not always calculating everything to the point where, everybody around you is miserable because you're too frugal in a way. It's important not to overspend, and we have to be wise with our money and with our food, but it's also important to live life abundantly. And this reminds me of my grandmother, who was raised in the time of the war. She was very young when the war happened, and something like 19 years old, and she had experienced war, she had experienced camps, all kinds of horrible things. And she was Lithuanian, so she was part of a small place near Germany, not too far from there, Latvia. And so when the Germans took over, they basically took all these little countries around and made them do what they had to do to make the camps survive, and you provide food and work as a nurse and this and that. So that's what she did. And when the war was over and she came to Canada, she had a lot of still that mindset where, I had lived with her for a bit and I had taken care of her, and I found, dry pieces of bread in her in different little areas in the kitchen that she'd hide them. And I would do her groceries. By then she was like in her 80s, and I was doing the groceries for her and bringing it every week and cleaning out, her kitchen. and taking care of her. And then I'd bring her fresh bread every week, and I'd find these dry pieces of bread. And then, so I asked her, I said, why are there dry pieces of bread in these containers? And she said to me, she said, oh, because, back when I was poor in the time of the war, we didn't have fresh bread. We had, dry pieces of bread, and we kept any scraps of bread that we can find, and they dried up, and that's what we ate. And for her, it was a reminder of the wartime, but in a way that it wasn't like it was bittersweet. Like, it was a reminder of the war, but for her it was also comforting, because it was something that she had lived with her sister and she held on to. So you can choose to, hold on to the scraps in your life, or you can choose to, want the good bread and eat the good bread. And it was funny because she did that, and when I'd bring her some really fresh bread and I'd make her a sandwich or something, she thought it was amazing. She thought it was just, wow, thank you. She was so grateful. So I really think that we have to, not live like people that are expecting, not to have anything and hold on to every little bit of what we have, but to really see everything as a blessing that God gives us, and to be grateful, to express that gratefulness towards God, and to express that towards other people. Your children will also, I've noticed if I complain about stuff and have a scarcity mindset, my kids tend to catch that as well. So if I say something like, no, don't eat too much of that, because we won't have enough for the week, or this and that. If I talk like that, they tend to operate in a scarcity mindset, as opposed to, living abundance and eating the way we should be eating, and obviously not wasting. But if we show that how we spend our money and how we think about the different things that we consume in our day, that's how our kids are going to think as well, right? And I want to read to you this last verse, 2 Corinthians 9:8. And God is able to make all grace abound towards you, that ye, always having all sufficiency in all things, may abound to every good work. And when he says all things, he's not just talking about money. He's talking about all your needs. He's talking about all your provisions, all your resources, everything that you need to do to do every good work. And so I hope that you were blessed by this podcast, and I hope that you're going to really remember to check your thinking whenever you think about how you spend in your business, thinking long term, always thinking that you're going to make more, that you're going to build more, that you're going to expand God's kingdom, and that every year is going to be more fruitful than the year before. So try to think in that mindset. One of the saddest things that I've seen recently in the last few years is when I talk to young entrepreneurs, a lot of them are so scared to, buy a website and to do a few things, a few equipments, to shoot a few videos. There's a lot of things that we can do to start a business that doesn't have to cost a fortune. You don't need to have thousands and thousands of dollars. And a lot of them think that they're going to, work a crappy job that they're doing, put, little scraps of pennies aside, and then, get a little bit of money, and then they're going to finally be able to do this and finally be able to do that. It's really important that we have this abundance mindset. And sometimes, you might have to borrow from a friend. Maybe you'll have to pray about it so that God helps you to provide for that business to start it out. But you can start doing a small business with a small website with different little things and build and grow as you go along. It doesn't have to be perfect from the beginning. A lot of people are doing podcasts just on a Libsyn, website, and they're using that URL to promote, their podcast. Some people are just buying URLs and redirecting it to their YouTube channel so that people get to see them on YouTube, or see their Facebook page and get to know them through their videos there. There's a lot of creative ways with social media now that you can have visibility, that you don't have to spend a fortune in marketing, and that you're able to start slowly and say, you know what, I'm going to start this thing. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do, what God's asked me to do. And as He inspires me, as He shows me how to grow my business, I'm going to always think that He's going to, help me. And obviously you want to be sure that you're on track, that it's something that that aligns with your strengths, and that God wants you to do this business when you start. But it's important to not limit yourself and to start somewhere. So many people have a scarcity mindset and are so scared to start because they're expecting, to have $5,000 to start whatever it is they want to do, and they never end up starting. And they look back on their lives later on and realize that they wasted a lot of time. So I hope that you won't have this mindset, and I hope that you will think abundantly, always remembering that God wants to bless you and wants you to live an abundant life. So be blessed and thrive on, and don't forget to share this podcast. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving on Purpose podcast. Be sure to visit thrivingonpurpose.com to access the show notes and to discover more fantastic content. Until next time, be blessed, and may you thrive on purpose.